The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
What time is it?
I started to question myself if I was watching Lucha Underground and I had accidentally flipped over to Cinemax.
Not a whole lot of faces shown as far when it comes to Brenda, so
Yeah.
You're spot on there, buddy.
This is the house that AJ Styles built.
Like Nakamura, he's just such a great star. It doesn't matter what you do with him, people are going to cheer for him.
Did you feel the gloriousness? Did you feel it? Bobby Roode did his job.
This is insane how great they are.
Well, I think the authors of pain are young prodigies.
That's how good we are, representing Bullet Club. This is what we do.
Super Kid Pate! Bam!
I feel revived. I feel like a number one contender again. How do you feel?
I feel revived as well, my brother. I feel triggered. I feel woken. There is an awakening that has happened inside my brother and myself. And now the club, the revival, they will both learn while we have run the tag team division for a quarter of a century. And they will also learn while we will run this tag team division forever!
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the max.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughan, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leeser.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestling to the Max, episode 258, part 1. And of course, we are brought to you by W2Mnet.com. That's right, the place you go find all your great wrestling needs, plus a lot more. Hey, and also want to give a special shout out to 4womanmania.com as well. Don't forget also, rate, review, and subscribe at Wrestling to the Max, wherever you get podcasts from. And if you love everything over there at the W2Mnet.com family, make sure you go subscribe at W2M Network. That's right. Also, don't forget YouTube. I almost forget sometimes myself, but I want to make sure you go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button. You can even get emails every time we get something out there for you guys. It's just an easy way to do things. Whatever works best for you, that's why we give you all these different options, and we hope that you take advantage of them now. I am your host, Gary Vaughan. Along with me is Mr. Sean Garmer.
What's up, everybody?
And tonight, we're missing a guy. Of course, that guy is Paul Leeser. He is on vacation, enjoying himself a week of relaxation and whatever else that he decides to get into. So we are, going to be going old school, Sean. What about that one?
Yeah, I know. It's been a little while. Usually it's me missing things. But it's nice that Paul gets a vacation and gets to go do, have fun and everything else. So... hey, sometimes, we got to have the original crew in here to cover.
Yeah. At least he didn't do this to us like SummerSlam or something like that, right?
Yeah, that would have been difficult, but hey, we get through this when all of us have to miss. Mm-hmm. Gary rarely misses most of the time. But when either I or Paul had to miss, somebody else covers the slack. So we even have, Harry does the SmackDown and 205 Live reviews with me now. He's going to do NXT with Gary. So good that we have, a third, fourth, fifth person in the hole if we need to use them.
Exactly. That's what's awesome. And, Harry Broadhurst as a great host and does a lot of things with his own shows at Wrestling Unwrapped, of course, on our network. And just really, excited about talking NXT with him this Thursday. I'm really stoked about that. And, we're a working family here. We get things done and taken care of. And that gives us all a break sometimes. Man, Sean, you deserve breaks sometimes. And, sometimes you just get too tired to do a show, and I don't blame you, man. You do everything under the sun when it comes to W2Mnet.com and a lot of other podcasts. So it just, sometimes you needed that little break, and that's what Paul's doing this week. I'm going to be doing it the first week of October. I'll be gone on another cruise, so I will be absent that week, and I will leave you and Paul to y'all's devices, and we'll see.
That's gonna be fun. I think. Yeah, it also is weird for me to go from working 20, which is bad. I shouldn't just work 20 hours, but that's what work was giving me. And I went from working 20 hours to 35 to 40 all of a sudden. And so I've had to start training people to do stuff with the site. And then I get home and I'm like, oh, I have to do site stuff. So I don't really get to do a whole lot outside of what we have to do for that. And then the G1's on, so I got the G1 on one screen and soccer on the other screen. And I'll be so glad when Thursday comes around there's no more soccer tournaments for a while. So yeah, but then what does start on Thursday, Gary, is our Cowboys play a game that it doesn't matter, but it's a game. All right, so
exactly.
That's going to be so much fun to not only watch the owner get inducted into the Hall of Fame, much deserved for him, but also to watch them play the Cardinals and get to watch some of these guys we've been hearing about doing training camp.
I know. And a lot of people hate preseason football. I know, Sean, you're not a huge fan of preseason football.
Just please don't. Nobody else gets suspended. Please.
Yeah. Please don't do that. That's one thing that kind of helps us love the game is when you're not suspended, not getting suspended. But no, I love preseason football because you get to hear all about these guys from the draft and all that. And this is finally the time you get to see them. And there's a few guys I'm excited about seeing, Ryan Switzer being one of them, and he's had a hamstring injury. I'm hoping he's going to be available for this Hall of Fame game. But, it's just fun for me. I enjoy watching it, and so I'm excited about it. I know you are too, and we'll be definitely, talking a lot about that on our Football to the Max episode on Thursday night, of course, available Friday morning on the download for everybody. So, if you want to hear us talk more about that, you need to tune into that show. But yeah, I'm excited. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up our way, Sean, and really, a busy schedule. I know you're going to get rid of those soccer tournaments, but we've got a lot more stuff coming up. So, not too much rest in the near future.
Yeah, no.
But anyway, I want to touch base on something that, I know you weren't able to be on the show last week on Thursday's show, and I wanted to make sure that me and you got a chance to talk about this because Paul and I touched base on this, and we did a little bit of discussion on it with Quick Hits, but I wanted to hear your thought process on something before we do get into our weekly Quick Hits, for this episode, and that's the Superstar Shakeup that we've heard about and the rumors and all that could entail, and I know you kind of followed this a little bit. I really got to hear your opinion on this Superstar Shakeup and what you think about it.
Well, the Superstar Shakeup, I don't mind them doing it twice a year. The company kind of resets after SummerSlam anyway as they gear towards, Survivor Series and then heading towards Royal Rumble and WrestleMania again. So, SummerSlam kind of provides them all right, we got through after WrestleMania to the next big period. Now we have to get through to the next big period. What do we do? How do we refresh some of these storylines, these matchups? Let's switch it up again. And I don't mind. I do wish that they kind of just got to have a little redraft or whatever to have that kind of big event again, but Vince hates the word draft, so apparently we can't do it, which is dumb. But, I just hope they explain things better than last time, because last time it just felt like guys showed up on a show. And I feel like the event needs to be bigger, and I feel like there needs to be better explanation. Why not explain things like a draft, but you just don't call it a draft? I don't see what the big problem is. And the more out there you are about letting us know what this is and how this works and who could really come over and who doesn't and is someone protected or are they not, kind of thing, I'd like to know that. I mean, obviously, I think you have guys that you could switch shows, and it'd be nice to see what SmackDown could do with them. It'd be nice to see what some guys would do on Raw. I don't want to. I think we can wait on naming names until we find out for sure if it's happening. I think obviously the rumor mill chugs along with wrestling. It happens all the time, but I wouldn't have a problem if they did it. It's fine. I don't want to see them do this after every big joint pay-per-view or whatever. Like, don't do it again after Survivor Series. Like, you need to just 2 times a year. Fine. It may also mean that maybe we get an NXT call up or something like that too. That kind of refreshes things there.
Yeah, I mean, you're right on that. And looking at the process of shakeups, I mean, there's so much that you can do or not do, right? I mean, you can switch, 3 people over to another show and then maybe 4 over to another one, or maybe make it even, or do different things, or you can switch 10 between each show. There's so much you can kind of do, but you've got to pick the appropriate times. And you're right. I mean, you don't want to do it more than twice a year, but it doesn't become special. I think that, what we're going to get here, hopefully, is the shuffling of talent that really need to either be brought back to Raw or SmackDown, or maybe just bringing maybe a few, teams up from NXT that maybe need to be there to help fill spots like in the tag division, things like that.
The problem is NXT doesn't have this deep tag division either.
You're right, exactly right. You're totally right on that. That's where I think they need to have a complete rebirth. They've been trying to rebirth the tag division on NXT, but I think they've got to do a better job and really work on that, because
and I like what Paul brought up too, which is how we thought they might do it originally, where they can't do it now with having titles for everything. But before they had made titles, I wouldn't have had a problem at all with one show has the tag teams, one show has the women. You've done that with the cruiserweights now. I mean, what would have been the big deal? Yes, that means that Raw would have had to figure out how to use more of the women, which isn't bad. And SmackDown would have had to figure out how to use more of the tag teams, which also isn't bad. You just have to, change your show around to meet what you have, which you already have to do. It's just a lot of times you just have these teams just sitting around doing nothing, and you have a lot of women sitting around doing nothing. And, I mean, SmackDown just solves it by having all the women involved in one feud, but how many times do we see Emma or somebody else complaining that I never get on TV? And it's, come on, the brand's supposed to solve that problem, and you still have that issue.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right on that, and I like that idea. And then again, I could see the flip side of that coin of, if you don't let's just say you do that. Okay, let's say we go ahead and go with that process and that mindset. Sure, you could focus on the women. You could have maybe 2 women's matches on each Raw, and then of course the pay-per-view. You could have 2 women's matches that are big deals on there, or 3 if you have to, and one on the pre-show. But how are they going to really do that? No, they're probably not going to. They're probably going to try to focus on other things. Same with the SmackDown, and if they had the tag division, they wouldn't put, 3 tag matches on there most likely. It'd be 2 at the most, and who knows. So those same problems of being on TV for some superstars would still be there, and that's a crying shame, but it's just the way things work and the way that they would book. I don't know if WWE is in the mindset of, getting all those things right, even if you do try to centralize certain divisions on certain shows. So I don't know. I think, there is a lot to be figured out with the perfect formula, and I don't know if there is a perfect formula. I don't.
There's not.
So, But yeah, I mean, this is interesting, and I just had to know your thought process on this. And one other thing before we move on, because we got other stuff to talk about, but I got to know about this because when I was talking to Paul about this, I thought, man, I got to know what Sean thinks about the NXT situation. If there was those thought processes that Vince is going to go ahead and take people that are not working out or people he doesn't want to push and send them back down to NXT. Do you think that would be a wise move? Because, I mean, let's say you sent down a big star, like, it's not going to happen. Let's say you sent down Neville. Well, Neville's been an NXT champion. He would go to the main event picture immediately. Well, we've already got a full main event picture down there in NXT. You don't need a guy like that.
For me, the only way that this works, and I know you guys kind of hinted at it, is the only way you can justify sending people down is you have to make NXT longer. You are absolutely either that or you're going to have to stop signing people. I mean, look, now I get it. There is no guarantee out there that if you sign Colorado, and the problem is, again, you're trying to grab these people, right, from the indies. And then some of these guys like Donovan Dijak, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, if Adam Cole signs, they're having to wait months just doing stuff on the indies until that 60 days or whatever runs out so ROH doesn't sue WWE to sign. And you're trying to get them to sign, and yes, you're getting them to sign on the bigger picture of WWE, the main roster and whatever, but if now your roster is so bloated that you're having to send people down to NXT, what is that telling the people that are signing? You may never get on TV for a while. Either that or we're going to start having even less storylines happen because you have to have them all on 1 week. Or you're going to have them all competing in squash matches for, whatever. It's just, for me, the only way you're going to solve this problem is if you're going to make this roster even more bloated, you're going to have to make NXT longer. And I don't know if they can feasibly do that because of the way that they tape shows. But it's something that needs to be considered of something that you're doing here. Whether you finally do the UK show and you ship off a lot of them over to the UK scene, and they don't necessarily have to be UK guys. They can just be people that would be fashionable in the UK or people that like, that UK scene would like. Or you need to make NXT, the weekly show, longer, which would probably suck because that means you got to make the takeovers 3 hours. And then, or you got to stop signing people. Like, just start pulling the plug, saying, okay, we're not signing anybody else, or you got to start cutting people. You got to start cutting that performance center down and saying, okay, we're going to start hiring less indie guys, or we're going to start hiring less people off the street from other, walks of life or whatever that we like to do. You got to do something. There's got to be for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. That whole law. There's got to be something you're doing here because you cannot possibly look. There might be guys that like to sit around and just make their paycheck and not do anything, but I can't imagine that they want to sit around and not do anything and make that money. So, sometimes I wonder if WWE is doing that with some of these people, like, oh, we're going to sign them just to get them off the indies so nobody else can sign them, and then, especially now that we're bringing people down, oh, we'll just have them there so that nobody else can grab them. But it's just, I don't like hearing that this is going to happen. I hope it's not. I hope it's just, Vince talking or whatever. It's not bad. Like, it's good for them if they're not on TV or they don't want to use them and they're going to get work in NXT. But you got to do something to make it to where you don't hurt the other people that have been there working.
Yeah, you're right. No,
I will say this is great for the house shows, though, right? Like, the house show business will get better if you're bringing in WWE star. This guy is here now.
Yeah. You're telling me. I mean, my God. I mean, most of those guys you just mentioned, I'd go watching a house show in a minute. in a second. I mean, I'd be there. And so that's the thing. I mean, it's the fact that you can actually do a lot of great things in the live events, but when it comes to TV, there's not enough time for all these guys and girls. And just to be honest with you, I don't know if a 2-hour NXT goes over very well. We already know the NXT ratings are not the best, right? There's just not a show.
They're still the number two watch show on the network, though.
I mean, that's true. I mean, that's a very true thing, but still, compared to what they get on regular TV or any other thing, is still not exactly what I think.
But you're right. If you add another hour, it's another hour of WWE TV that you're watching, and it's like, whoa.
I think people don't finish episodes of NXT. I think people kind of halfway watch it or, whatever. So
to be fair, all that matters is that they actually press the button and press watch once. So it's like that old saying, what Matthew Berry says, right? Like, I don't care if you listen, just download.
Yeah.
So as long as you press that download button, I'm not saying, please don't do that for us. Make sure you listen or whatever. But just, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. I definitely understand where you're coming from on that. But it's just out of quality time and for people to hang around. All I'm saying is that I think an hour is perfect for NXT. I don't think adding an hour would do any justice to it. I think you may even lose people. So we'll see. I mean, this is a lot of stuff thrown at us when it comes to these rumors, right? We don't have any fact. We have nothing that is confirmed or official. So these is just us throwing things around based on rumors we've heard and all that stuff. And none of this is, probably going to take place the way we even said it is going to take place. So
right.
I just wanted to throw that out there and get your take on it because it was something that me and Paul kind of touched on, and I said, man, I have to have Sean's opinion and kind of get your feelings. So I'm glad we did that here. Well, guys, we have a big show still ahead of us. We've got quite a few quick hits to jump into. I want to give a programming note for you guys tonight. The one thing that we will not be doing on this show that we always do is Ring of Honor. And Sean and I both watched Ring of Honor, so it has nothing to do with Sean and I were being lazy.
But it wasn't a regular Ring of Honor episode either.
Exactly. So that and this is really the honest truth, and we're going to be very transparent. So Sean and I both watched this show. We watched the Ring of Honor episode from this past week, but it is a Women of Honor special. So there was lots of different wrestlers that I'm not really familiar with. Sean is familiar with some of them, and we both, enjoyed the show. But we thought, man, Paul knows a lot about these ladies. He watches them on a regular basis. It would be great for us to all talk about it, have Paul's opinion mixed in with this, and it would be great, better for you guys listening, for Paul to be a part of that discussion. So what we're going to do is next week on our Part 1 episode, we're going to have a Ring of Honor doubleheader. That's right. We'll be doing the Women of Honor episode, and then we'll follow that up with next week's episode of Ring of Honor. That'll give you all that great stuff in one nice little package there, and we'll all get a chance to kind of discuss everything that goes down with that whole show. And it's just a better thing, I think, for everyone. So we're going to save that, and me and Sean are going to talk about some quick hits here. We'll get a little bit more time on some of these quick hits since we're not doing Ring of Honor as well. So there you go. That's kind of a programming note. If you're looking for it, it'll be next week. So
it's another reason why Gary and I are also not going to be part of the reviews of the Mae Young Classic. Those will be Paul and Patrick and Harry that are much more well-versed in those athletes and watching them a lot more. Patrick goes to Shimmer shows, and, you've heard Paul talk at length about many of them here, especially when they, him and Gary ran down the roster. So, Gary and I will kind of talk about the shows once we get to actually watch them. But we're not going to be doing full-length reviews or anything. It's more kind of like an overview just for you guys to listen to the regular episodes. But that'll come, of course, after SummerSlam, starting with that bracketology thing for them. But, yeah, it's not that we don't care. It's not that, we value one over the other. It's that Paul knows a lot more here, and it would be beneficial to have him on to be able to talk about it. Not to mention, Paul does us a great solid with these, and he writes his own little review of the show which allows us to kind of get more odds and ends and remember things better. Well, for Gary, I usually kind of just don't get time to watch ROH. I could not do that because I'm having to watch G1 and watch Raw and everything else at the same time. So, hopefully, and I remember Paul saying he really was excited for this episode. So it's better for him to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll be looking forward to that next week. So, well, guys, we're about to jump into quick hits, and so once we do that, we'll be, solid gold. So let's jump into it, Sean. Let's do it next.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
Alrighty, guys. Well, let's get into this, and let's talk about some big news that we got this week, and that is, of course, that WWE is no longer going to be having original programming on their network. At least that's the way it seems so far. They've actually canceled 2 shows. One of those shows we have never even got a chance to see, and that is R-Truth's game show, which, man, that sucks, because I could just imagine the shenanigans and all the funny quirks and things that would take place on the R-Truth game show. I would love it, but that's a big disappointment. I think a bigger disappointment is something that they teased us with. We saw some of it, so now we have a taste for it, and they're ripping it right out of our hands. And that is the Edge and Christian show. That's right. That is now no longer going to be a part of the network. They actually started filming season 2. From what I understand, they were halfway done filming, and WWE canned it. And that's just a huge shame. We're getting word.
I love that show.
I know, man. It had so many great, funny guests. It had everything about it was
so good, and it was such a great show to watch. It was a great show to binge watch too. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, just sad. But I mean, that also comes from of course, WWE released their Q2 financial stuff last week, and normally that kind of falls on me to talk about. I wasn't on. But that kind of goes along with another thing that they talked about, which I've seen some thoughts about it on the internet. I think the websites that are reporting on this are the ones that like to just say stuff to get hits, and there's nothing to base this off of. But you did have Vince and George Barrios mention, I know you've seen this, Gary, where there's a lot of sports that are now, and we saw it with the NFL last year. We saw it with the NFL again this year, and we've seen it with soccer and other sports now, where you're getting digital rights given to Facebook and Twitter and Amazon. And, George Barrios was asked about that. Like, what about if the TV deal comes up and let's say Facebook or Twitter gives you a huge deal, would you consider taking it? And obviously the thought is that, being on USA Network or being on TV is very, very important, and that's the most important thing for them. But that kind of goes along with, they're not doing original content because it costs them a lot of money. It costs them more money to do the original content than it costs them to produce NXT or 205 Live or any of the, things that are based around wrestling. Renee's Unfiltered got canceled. All the other shows are pretty much they've been canceled. They just didn't say anything. I mean, Camp WWE probably cost them a ton of money, and I don't think a lot of people watch that, they're trying to be cost effective with the network. And the people that are complaining about having 19 pay-per-views, that's kind of why they got to have 19 pay-per-views, is because, or 18, whatever, because that's what's getting the attention, is pay-per-views, NXT, all that stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? I get it, and that's understandable. That's a smart business way of doing things, and That's what any other corporation would do. If they're selling a certain product over another one that they produce, well, guess what? One product's going to get discontinued and the other one's going to flourish. That's just the way things work. It's just a shame because I think a lot of us really enjoyed some of those shows. I think I've talked about it with Paul the other day, and I know me and Sean talk about, of course, the Edge of Christian show and Table for Three all the time, and how much we enjoy those shows. It's just I
think Table for Three cost them like nothing to do. So that's not one of the shows that's going to go down.
Yeah.
It's just anything that requires a lot of effort on their part, that's going out the window.
Yeah, and that's it. But it's just whatever you enjoy though. Coming off this whole thing, it's just it sucks when you find out it's not going to be there. Like Table for Three,
like
it's not canceled,
probably never coming back, which sucks.
Yeah, and things like that. You're right. The things that are really costly, or you got to bring outside people in. Table for Three, they don't have to bring outside people in besides the people that are maybe not really in.
Like having to bring in Candice Michelle and Kelly.
Yeah, but that was at WrestleMania. Really, they didn't have to bring them in. They were already there, and that's usually what they do anyway. So it's not like they're forcibly having to go get a director from another show or blah, blah, blah. It's just one of those things you just hate when you get something, they show it to you, then you lose it. Like, I like to Camp WWE. I know a lot of other people didn't care for it. I thought it was fun. And Seth Green, being a part of it is super neat. You could sit there and say, man, that's really cool. I'm watching a Seth Green produced show on WWE Network. Guess what? Seth Green costs money. He's not free. Right. And, that's what WWE's saying.
And his team costs money and bringing all of them in there to do voice acting and all that stuff, they're already getting paid Legends deals and they're already on contracts, but you're having to pay them for that too. So, it's just, it sucks but it's like, we saw, I don't know if you saw this, Gary, but the whole thing with Netflix is in debt, but Netflix pays out so much money. They produce so much original content, it's ridiculous. But there's got to be a happy medium, right? And WWE's not even performing that happy medium. They're just saying pretty much everything that anything possibly that costs us money, we're cutting it, and that sucks because it's like, all right, Table for Three is fine, but there's some episodes that just are blah. And bring it to the table, even though they got better on this last episode that they just aired on Monday, where it felt like a little bit tad more real, or at least they let them talk about a few more things differently than you would have on the other shows. Just some of those just don't. I don't know. You've got to get a bit more creative. Like, I know those documentaries probably cost them money to make, like those W24s and whatever. But you've got to find. So why not do more? Why not bring in guys to do Legends roundtables again? Then, if all your stuff's going to go towards having talking heads and documentaries and whatever, then you've got to find other ways to do this and cater to other people. Then, because it's just like, it's sad, Gary, to watch that schedule of the WWE Network, and there's like 3 things that are new, excluding NXT and 205 Live.
Yeah,
every week, and it's like, wow, No,
I'm right there with you. It is a really big bummer, and I think that's what made the network so special, was that they had so much to offer, but not only just in the ring, but on comedy. And let's just be honest, in documentaries, in different ways, all including wrestling, but it's not all just about the in-ring wrestling, right? So that's what made it so great. Like, I loved Unfiltered Renee Young because you got a chance to feel like you were really knowing getting to know these people. Table for Three is good for that too, but Table for Three is so short. It's almost like you getting to hear
and
a conversation.
It's so cut up too. Like you can feel how cut it is.
Oh, it's awful cut up, and it's almost like you're getting to listen to a conversation while you're eating at another table. That's the way it feels because you're missing so much of the conversation. You know you're missing a lot of the conversation, but you're getting to hear tidbits, and you're like, that's neat, but I wish I heard the full story. And that's what's a shame about that show. But I loved Unfiltered because you were there and you really got a chance to kind of feel like you were in that conversation. Like you got really close up and personal with people that you were kind of curious about their lives and things that they do, So
even that tattoo, the ink show was interesting because, there's always a story behind your tattoo usually, and getting to see what that meant to them and everything else, it's just a little bit more of learning about them, right? And even JVL talked about on the Bring It to the Table about Talking Smack, about how great that show is, about needing to have an unscripted environment where these people just get to talk and you get to know them. And I don't know, they need to find other ways to do that than if everything is an inconvenience, like Talking Smack, or just everything costs too much. Look, you're going to get people canceling eventually because there are a lot of people that don't want to just have something that's... Look, the network is convenient, right? Let's be honest. It's very convenient. It's nice to be able to just turn it on to watch NXT 205 Live and pay-per-views whenever you need to. There is that weekly element with NXT, but you can also watch NXT on Hulu. You can also watch 205 Live on Hulu. So unless you take that off Hulu, there's a lot of people who don't subscribe to Hulu either. So there's that. But you have to make it. And I don't fault the people. I think we have a couple people in our wrestling chat on the website that are I think I'm canceling the network now because there's nothing to look forward to really outside of just watching a pay-per-view once a month. I'm not paying $10 for that. And it's kind of at least say what you will, even if there's no TV show that you like on Netflix or you don't like any of their original stuff, there's movies, and Hulu has the more recent movies. They took that away from Netflix, but they have other things, right? WWE just has old content that appeals to a very small amount of people. And then they keep adding even older content, and they're going to run out of that eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people were complaining about not getting the old content, and that's fine. I understand there's a lot of stuff that people want to see that maybe they haven't seen or just relive, but I think you got to have that balance, like you're saying, to keep the new audience and the old audience all happy. And unless you really work for it and really push it to this century, no one's going to care just about all the in-ring action. People are going to want to see other stuff. They're going to want to get in depth. Here's the thing. Me and you really, have kind of basically just ran it on and on and on about how much we love these interviews and getting to know these wrestlers. But that's the way we live our lives now. Facebook basically is an open book on everybody's lives. You just read a few things and someone's entire day, week, month. And we get to know each other.
And Twitter, you pretty much can figure out what anybody's doing, even the wrestlers, so.
Yeah. So that's what it's obvious that this generation and, of course, even us, learning from all these new technologies, that we care about what people are doing. We want to know more, and those shows are awesome because they give you just that. They feed that need. But now with them having to cancel programming and you're, of course, losing Unfiltered, you've already lost that. And, Table for Three is pretty cheap, so they can keep that around. But you never know. One day they may decide to get rid of that, too. So
it's just sad because, honestly, why couldn't we have at least seen the game show for R-Truth, right? R-Truth is funny. Like, I know that was probably would have been a good show, and like, game shows are all the rage right now. WWE could have been ahead of the curve on that before we had the Beat Shazams and Love Connections and all that coming back here in the summer, and just nope, killed it.
I know, it's such a shame. And think of how great that R-Truth show would have been if it was uncensored.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, I would have loved it.
Like R-Truth could have his own talk show. That'd be funny.
Yeah, that would be. Honestly, that would be a great one. I'd love just to see him and New Jack sit down and just have a great discussion.
Oh God. That would be. He is recording music again, R-Truth. So.
Is he? Oh yeah. He's definitely a talented guy. So it's a shame. It really, really is. Well, enough talking about stuff that WWE's getting rid of and losing.
Oh, hold on. I mentioned it and then never got your opinion on it. I feel like I hate myself for mentioning it and saying, oh, well, we didn't talk about this, but we've seen this, and now there's even I think there was a Dish Network sued Facebook or sued Univision for airing Liga MX matches through Facebook or whatever. It's that extreme. It's that extreme that we saw Amazon outbid Twitter for the NFL Thursday night games or whatever it was, Mm-hmm. So there's obviously a market out there to have digital rights like that on those mediums. There's stories going around. It's from nobody substantial, but so by the time Meltzer and all them get to it, when we talk about it on the Thursday show, this may be nothing. And obviously they would have to offer a lot of money for WWE to even consider it. But do you think that we could get to a time where, let's say, WWE simulcasts Raw and SmackDown, not only on the network, but let's say they air it on Facebook or Twitter live, and then you can also watch on the network too if you want, and not have it on USA or?
I don't know. I mean, of course, if the money's there, I think they would gladly do it. But you're, basically telling people, hey, come join the network. And once people know, they only have to spend the $10 over there at WWE Network. And
yeah, that would have to go up, right? That would have to at least be $15 or $20.
Yeah, but not only that, you got to think also about the fact that if, you're simulcasting on both of them, then you're also telling Amazon that, hey, we're still going to give it to people. So, we're going to.
But also, what incentive do you? This is why they also probably can't go up in prices, because if you put it on Facebook, Facebook's free.
Yep, you're right. Mm-hmm.
So you better get a bunch of money from Facebook to get people to just watch it on there and not watch on the network or anything like that.
Yeah, the only way it works is if you don't simulcast them. That's the only way this really works. And, if you raise the price of the network, people are going to cancel in droves. You just know it. People are going to be
just
pissed.
I can't, once you make yourself a total niche product like that, mm-hmm. You're already a niche product, let's be honest. But, on USA Network, you are visible. People can flip on USA Network on a Monday, on a Tuesday night, and see you're there. Mm-hmm. Right? They can see, oh, there's wrestling. Once you become only on the WWE Network, your visibility goes way down outside of social media. And yes, social media is huge. It's very important. It's very important to WWE, all that stuff. That's how you get the whole people are talking about it, how they're not talking about it. But in everyday walks of life, casual viewers, those casual viewers go away. You no longer are you don't have casual viewers really anymore, because if you don't subscribe to the network, you're not watching that. And I can't see Vince going, yeah, let's just take that away and go all on the network. I feel like there's going to be some kind of element where you could have, they still want that element of anybody can turn this on, something, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Beyond USA still, of anybody can turn this on and they can see us.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal to Vince, and I think Vince wants to be attached to anything that's big, right? Anything that's popular, and USA Network may not be the most popular, let's say, network, but it's still a big name. It's still a channel that people do tune into, and I think if, in the future we have Amazon or, Netflix or whoever the heck, has that next big app, that's what Vince would be happy to be a part of, because people are going to be flocking to that already. That means that his product is right there in front of their face. Every time, well, let's just say Hulu, for example. Let's say Hulu is able to get this deal. USA Network drops WWE, WWE goes to Hulu. Well, guess what? You're going to see, all these different shows that, you watch during the week. You'll have, what is that? This Family Guy, then you'll have, the Arrow or that
Future
Mandy Moore show, whatever it is. I'm trying to think of the bigger names of the show.
This Is Us?
This Is Us. Like shows like This Is Us, and then the next thing pops up is SmackDown Live, right? People are going to get a chance to see your product, and they don't even have to be big fans. Well, that may get you new fans. So Vince is going to want to do that, and I don't think he's going to go all exclusively to the WWE
But they're
Network.
already on Hulu, though.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about SmackDown Live and Raw. They're not
even
going to
if
make
that
the
got
banner.
on Netflix, there's still an element of that I wonder if WWE, if Vince goes, I don't know, this isn't mainstream enough for me, or they're not. It just, for one, you have to consider, again, WWE's main revenue source is these TV rights fees, right? So Facebook, Netflix, Hulu, Twitter, they couldn't go on Amazon, it's too secluded, would have to pay WWE a ridiculous amount of money for them to go that route and then have it also be on the network or whatever. Like, for them to not go with USA, you have to be talking about some crazy money.
Well,
and
exactly.
I don't know that any of those people are going to throw out crazy money for WWE like that.
Yeah, but also the future of cable television and things like that, it's very much in the waning sense right now, because so many people are switching over to cutting the cord, and still you're seeing places like the NFL Network and doing things like you just mentioned earlier. Hey, they're going to put their Thursday night games on Amazon and do things like that because they know people are always out and about. People want to watch their games wherever they're at. So you no longer have to sit in front of a TV in the living room to watch Thursday Night Football. Now you can be sitting on the toilet. Now you can be going and sitting in the grocery store. It don't matter. You can watch Thursday Night Football, and you're happy as can be.
And you don't have to have Verizon.
Hey, you don't have to have Verizon, any Comcast, any other, Dish Network, DirecTV. You could be happy because guess what? You just have to have your phone, have that app, and you're done. That's so easy. And so that's the future. I was talking to my wife the other day, and we were talking about DVDs. We don't buy DVDs as much as we did, and we probably will never buy DVDs anymore because guess what? Everything my daughter watches is on an app. It's either on Amazon, Netflix, Hulu. It's on one of those devices or one of those apps. It's just the future. We can't help it.
That's why Disney, when they, both of us are part of the movie club, which I got screwed over on one of their things, and now I have to go send the movie back. Freaking cut me like $35 in a hole.
Oh, wow.
That's why it's just like, it's one of those things, like I usually immediately, whenever it tells me, oh, there's a new movie, I go and hit cancel that moment. But I forgot on one, and then they put like 2 or 3 on top of it, and I guess I didn't hit it in enough time. And it charged you for Beauty and the Beast, like $33. I'm like, oh, great. And they're so archaic that you have to wait till the movie gets to your house, and then you have to send it back, and they have to get it into their stupid system before they give you the money back. And it's just, Anyway, like now Disney, automatically you cannot get a version without getting the digital. Because they know that's how most people are going to watch it. You go download that Disney Movies Anywhere thing, and you get it right there, and you can watch wherever you want. So, and most movies now do that, where if you buy the Blu-ray, you get the digital version or whatever. Yeah. But that's the only way I'm buying DVDs is because that digital version is included. Because Anaya says I really like that movie, whatever, and we got it. But I'm with you. I don't buy DVDs hardly anymore. If I want to go to Redbox and rent something, I'll do it. But I mean, I really don't watch that many movies anymore. Honestly, I watch more TV shows. But and especially with one of the services, like whether it's HBO or Stars or Hulu, Netflix, between the four of them, they usually get all the movies at some point that come out. So if you wait long enough, you don't really have to go buy the DVD, because it's like, are you really going to watch it a million more times after you watched it that one time? So...
Yeah, and that's the truth, and kids will watch it 100.
Yeah,
But us as adults, and even I think young adults, sometimes you're not going to watch it unless you just love it 100,000 times, and so.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times Anaya has watched this My Little Pony episode or the Puss in Boots thing, or I'm just like, they had new episodes of that like a week ago. She's like, I don't care, I'm still watching season 2 or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, okay,
I know. You just have to get used to it, and it's something where I find other things to do, because I'm not going to watch the same episode 100,000 times. Sorry. So. Yeah, I mean, this is all interesting, and we'll, of course, see an evolution in media with WWE, and I'm sure things will change, but it's all great questions. It's all interesting, and I'm really curious to see the future of what, media will be like when we're talking 10 years down the line with WWE. I mean, who knows? But, there is something that's really interesting, and that's the fact that WWE filed a trademark for Taboo Tuesdays. Yeah, that's right. They could be bringing that back. I mean, Sean, do you see it coming back? How would they bring it back?
Oh, talk about social media engagement. That's one way, right? Social media is a much different place than it was back then. Will they listen to the results this time? Will they try? Will they, I think it's much harder for them to rig the results nowadays than it was before, because it was like through the website or whatever. Now, if you do it through Twitter or Facebook or wherever you're doing it, not only through the WWE app, you may not get the result you want, and you might get people trolling on the internet, which we've saw that happen quite a bit. Then you get in the arena and nobody gives a crap. So, look, I think this is a fun idea. I think it fits with the network. The thing is, what are you really going to do it on a Tuesday? And you're going to have, I'm assuming they would just call it something else, but I like this idea. I don't think it's bad. I think in the age of social media that we live in, having a pay-per-view like that is okay. Just I worry about, is WWE actually going to do what it says and not try to rig it and all that stuff?
Yeah, because, they want to do what they want to do. And sure, we have a voice. We have things we want to see happen. But, for the most part, Vince is going to do what he wants to do in his own playground. He's not going to allow us to control everything. And I think, we could even see some of the suggestions that are not what he wants to do being really silly. And the suggestion he really wants being something that's a lot more stronger, something we'd vote for. You know what I mean?
Or like them when they have the guy pick a match, when they used to do that whole pick the match through social media and to be like 3 versions of the same match.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. So does that do us any good? Not really. Taboo Tuesday could be fun. It really could be fun. And, like you said, getting into social media, it's something that's super cool, to get involved in. But you don't know if you're really having your voice heard. You just don't. And that's
it's also about how you market it, right? If they market it as this is for the fans, by the fans, everything, make a big push about that, and you really have it be legit, you could get fans want to buy the network. You could get fans that really feel, more into WWE because of that or whatever. People love being sort of given that platform, right? Of feeling like they have some power.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can do the whole, oh man, this is where the crowd's going to be crazy, and this is where this is going to be a fun night that everybody needs to watch. Like, just promote it with joy and glee and that kind of thing, and not have the negative side of, oh God, we just had a match between the Revival and Cesaro and Sheamus because the Sparks came on and voted for the Revival. It's just let it be what it's going to be, right? Just that's the point.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I know, and I don't disagree. I just know WWE and the way that they like to skew the truth or skew things to their path and what they want to do, and I don't know if I could ever trust the results. Even if they promised me that they were real and that that's exactly how people voted, I think I'd still look at it and question it, right? I mean, I think, it's been, here in America, I mean, if you're listening from other places, maybe your voting system's different, but here in America, we've been questioning our voting system for maybe 15, 20 years now. We keep asking, that's not the way the election went. We went from hanging chads to a conspiracy to, the Russians voted for us. So we don't know in our own politics, who's really voting for what or whatever.
Right,
so
yeah.
how can we expect, to trust Vince McMahon? I mean, come on. So, but I think Taboo Tuesday would still be fun. I hope that they do that it makes sense and it doesn't get old, because I could see it getting old if it goes all the ways that we just talked about. So, let's mention something else that's kind of, I guess a concern, but maybe not a concern, depending on how much of a fan you are of this person. Kairi Sane apparently had a concussion during the original tapings of the early rounds of the Mae Young Classic, and that puts her a little bit behind because of the concussion that she had received, and that would leave her in late August making a return. That could definitely affect her as if she is in those later rounds of the Mae Young Classic. Once again, we haven't seen him yet, but there is a situation there if she was a big part of the live shows. What do you think, Sean? I mean, this is a bummer. I mean, this is someone I know you were really looking forward to watching.
Yeah, I mean, that really doesn't. They already taped everything to the semifinals, right? So, and the final is not until September, so she would be fine for that. But it kind of just puts her behind on the Performance Center work and having matches at the live shows and all that kind of stuff. I hope she's okay, obviously, and that she gets better and everything else. Hate hearing that you have a concussion and you've barely been with that company hardly any time at all. That doesn't look good on you. They're starting to make a count of those now. So, yeah. Hopefully, I don't know, and I'm trying not to look at spoilers, and we're trying to keep it spoiler free on our airwaves, because when they do that bracketology special, Paul, Patrick, and Harry want to make it legit, even though you could just go look at spoilers and know who made the semifinals, but we're trying not to do that, and it's also not fun. Yes, it's months away, and I probably would have forgot if I'd seen them, but it's just not fun to watch it, and it's like, oh, well, I already know.
Yeah. That's exactly my thing with it. And, I'm like that. And yes, I am a little weird. Paul always kind of, says, oh, well, I'm sorry, but I do read spoilers. And I'm like, well, that's okay. But you can watch shows and read them. I prefer not to personally. I kind of like to see it fresh, even if I'm, way behind everybody else. I still want to see it fresh. So that's why we're not going to talk about those things. But, Kairi Sane, really excited about seeing what
I think
she can
it's
do.
different, though, like when we already know that we have to cover that show.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. When it's a show like, I get spoiled because I have to update the results on the website. But, like, I particularly I'm not a big fan of knowing the results of, like, the New Japan matches before I watch them. Even though I usually wind up finding out because it's almost impossible to go on Facebook without finding out. Or some other show that I wanted to watch that we're not covering on the show. Yeah, I'll get kind of a little perturbed about that. But, if it's the London Raw show and I read the spoiler, we already got to cover this show. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, I think there is a difference when you are covering a show, right? I mean, you've got to, especially if you didn't watch it, you got to read the spoiler so you have an understanding of what happened. So, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I just hope that Kairi Sane, heals quickly and, gets over this because, you mentioned it. I mean, they don't need more injury-prone people in this, whole new signing of people, and I want to see her do well. So, well, one last big piece of news that we're going to get into here, and that is Jon Jones calling out Brock Lesnar. That's right. He has apparently, made known that he wants Brock. This is something that, Sean, we touched on when we did the Raw review, but we promised the people we'd kind of get more in depth on this. Why don't you kind of share a little bit about this and maybe even, talk about some of these tweets that we had going back and forth between these guys?
Well, I will be the first one to say that I am not a UFC person. We do have our own UFC MMA podcast on the network that you can go listen to. MMA to the Max with Robert Taylor and Joe Hudson. Those guys are great. So if you subscribe to MMA to the Max or just on the network, you'll get it. They do it on Saturdays or Sundays, and they'll break that down for you. But so Jon Jones defeated Daniel Cormier, and he called out Brock Lesnar. He just said, if you want to know what it's like to get your ass kicked by someone that weighs 40 pounds less than you, get in the octagon. Brock responded with, be careful what you wish for, young man. And then later in an interview, Jones said, I'm up for it. It's about time for me to be in a super fight. Fans want me to challenge myself and get to heavyweight and challenge the biggest and scariest guys. In the octagon, there's a lot of fresh blood in the light heavyweight division. We'd like to rule the division, but I feel like I don't have much to prove. But I'd like to challenge myself and get paid. I haven't worked much. Jon Jones also was coming off a suspension too. So, look, hey, this dude is no joke. So, Brock Lesnar, obviously not no joke either. But interesting that they're playing with the rumors, right? They're going with it, just acknowledging them and saying, okay, let's start this. Almost has like a wrestling vibe to it, right?
It really does, and that's what's funny about this whole thing. It also was kind of like they've already had this thing worked out. Both companies.
We're already starting to cut promos on it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know how really it all goes down behind the scenes, but what I do know is this is a big deal for the fact that, this is getting people to clamor and talk about it, and people are really interested in seeing if Brock Lesnar is going to get back in the, that octagon and really mix it up back in the UFC a little bit here. And, I think it's not a bad deal. I think especially if it's something that makes Brock Lesnar happy. It keeps him content until he makes his next WrestleMania run. I personally don't have a problem with it, unless he's going to get badly injured, which, hey, you never know. It could happen. It may not happen. But I think, Jon Jones calling him out really had to do with Jones really wanting that big payday, that big fight feel, wanting to make sure that people were going to pay big bucks to see that match, and that's exactly what would happen. This may not reach the level of a Mayweather and all that, but it would be a huge deal, and it would make big money. So, what does Jon Jones want to do? Make that purse as big can. That way he can walk away as a happy payday, win, lose, or draw. So it's smart. And Brock Lesnar responding back is also interesting. And for the fact that we've had rumors about Brock going back to UFC, I think overall it's kind of exciting in a way. But yet, it really kind of throws you for a loop when it comes to what's Brock Lesnar's commitments. What can he do?
Yeah, I mean, he is 40 now, so he's probably looking at it and saying, how many more years do I really have that I could do MMA? And he knows he can do WWE. Like, that's not the schedule he has, what he does in the ring. It's not really killing him, right? Mm-hmm. It's not really doing much to his body. He could probably do it for another 5 years if he wants to, and just collect a paycheck and whatever. He knows that. The thing with MMA is he knows your shelf life is small there. It's not guaranteed. It's a real fight. All it takes is getting knocked out one time. All it takes is getting hit in the wrong place or in the wrong places for Brock. And he really does have to retire because he can't do it again. Mm-hmm. Or he gets so humiliated that he retires out of humiliation. So, you got to be careful who you choose. And now I'm pretty sure that Jon Jones would probably go to heavyweight to do it. But this would be like a spectacle fight, very much like the Mayweather and McGregor. Mm-hmm. Where it's two guys that shouldn't be fighting, but they are. And here's UFC trying to make the most of it.
I can't say that I wouldn't be, excited about seeing it, but, I think, there is a lot of things that, you have to take into consideration, especially, with Brock Lesnar being so dominant in wrestling, and you just hinted at it, what happens if he goes in and loses against Jon Jones? What are people going to say then? What's the thought process going to be the next time he gets back in the wrestling ring? Well, it's that Brock Lesnar's not as tough as he said he was. So you've got to have him win. He's got to make those decisions. He's got to be intelligent about it.
Especially if he's WWE Universal Champion.
Oh, yeah.
At that point, what if he gets creamed? That might mean that at SummerSlam, somebody else might walk away with that title. It's not Brock Lesnar. Mm-hmm. And they're setting up this whole, he's going to quit because he really does to go train.
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. And there's so many components to this that make it really interesting. And I love the back and forth between Brock Lesnar and Jon Jones. I think these guys, they're cutting those promos and it's keeping people on their toes. But when you actually get to the fight, I would hope it would be as good as all that. I sometimes worry at the age that Brock Lesnar is it's going to be one of those quick Mike Tyson beatdowns, right? It's either him getting to beat someone down or he's getting beat down in like a few seconds. you know?
Yeah.
So that's another big fear too. So there's a lot to it, but hey, Vince is probably just happy that people are talking, right? And that's the good thing, So.
Do you think he keeps the title?
I think really, it really does depend on this whole UFC situation. I would vary to say that no. I would almost be honest with you, say that I think it moves on from Brock Lesnar because this is the perfect opportunity to let somebody else hold it. And, Brock's had it for quite a while, just basically holding it hostage. Now it's time to get it back in the circuit, let it get in front of live crowds again before you do the same thing over again down the line. So, yeah, I think him, losing it is a better idea.
Yeah, I'm still saying it's a perfect time for Joe to have a little run.
God, I hope that happens. Oh, I hope that happens so bad, man. I'm a big Joe fan right now. I want to see him as your Universal Champion, and Sean obviously does, and I think a lot of you guys out there do as well. So, but who knows? But yeah, I mean, that pretty much, kind of wraps up everything. The last thing I will say is, Sean, I didn't mention this on Raw, but on Brock Lesnar, I love those new shirts he has. You can have your own town on them. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that too.
So I have to check it out, see which one my local city is. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much quick hits for us for this week. Of course, we'll have some more coming up this week. We have the Thursday show, which will be available Friday morning on the download for you guys. We will be getting into some other big topics. We'll probably be talking a little bit about Impact Wrestling. We may be able to talk about some Lucha. We'll let you guys know on that stuff. And, of course, some more big wrestling news. You don't want to miss that episode. Lots of great stuff. Plus, we're crowning a Superstar of the Week on that show. Also, don't forget to go rate, subscribe, and review all the great shows that we have on the W2M Network. If you want, make sure you go, just hit up the W2M Network itself, subscribe, and you'll have everything in there. If you just, maybe you want to stick to one show and that show is ours, make sure you just go search out Wrestling to the Max, subscribe, rate, and review, and you'll get us all the time. All our shows, all our review shows, part 1 and part 2 of our weekly Wrestling to the Max shows. And, hey, make sure you go give some love over there at WTMnet.com and, of course, 411mania.com. Both great sites. You want to go check them out now. Sean, I think that pretty much gives us our show for this night. We definitely want to say thank you for everybody who came and checked us out. Make sure we, get to see you and hear from you guys next Thursday. Until then, if you're not living life to the max.
Not living life at all.
Now we can say it both together. You know it. There you go, buddy.
Peace.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.